stories only God could write, true testimonies of faith, miracles, revelations, life-changing encounters, the missionary, and the power of God in action. Get ready to be moved, to be inspired, and to renew your hope and your faith. What happens when the greatest wish of your heart, the desire for forgiveness and connection, is answered not by human effort, but by a whisper in someone else's sleep? Could a simple name, dreamed by a missionary hundreds of miles away, be the exact key needed to unlock years of bitterness and lead a lost daughter home? This is the story of a shattered relationship, a powerful dream, and the miraculous journey of a woman who hadn't seen her mother in years. Guided by a messenger she barely knew, our central character is Sarah Jenkins, a missionary in her late 50s, known for her deep empathy and prophetic dreams. Sarah's ministry often revolves around restoring broken family bonds, a mission born from her own childhood experience of being estranged from a sibling. She lives modestly in a quiet part of Nashville, focusing on community outreach. Sarah is practical, but completely devoted to obedience when she receives a clear spiritual instruction. Her biggest fear is inaction, missing the moment when God calls her to intervene. She is convinced that every tear shed over a lost family member is stored in heaven, waiting for the perfect moment of divine reconciliation. The woman at the heart of the pain is Olivia Hayes, a vibrant but visibly weary woman in her early 30s, who attends Sarah's community church sporadically. Olivia carries a quiet, debilitating burden, a deep, soul-crushing depression rooted in a terrible estrangement. 15 years ago, at the age of 18, Olivia made a choice fueled by young love and rebellion. She fell deeply in love with a man her mother, Eleanor, vehemently disapproved of. The arguments escalated into a fierce, unforgivable fight. In a moment of heartbroken rage, Olivia ran away with her boyfriend, cutting off all contact and moving hundreds of miles away from her small, rural childhood home. The relationship eventually failed, but the damage was done. Olivia had wandered, struggling to rebuild her life in Nashville. Her longing for her mother was a constant, aching wound. She carried a profound guilt for the words exchanged and the abrupt separation. She often drove aimlessly, searching for any place that felt like home, but she couldn't even remember the exact location of her mother's house. Just a few fragmented details. The fear of being rejected again, coupled with her inability to find her way back, had pushed her into a suffocating depression. She prayed desperately for a sign, an opening, a miracle to bridge the gap of 15 years. On a Tuesday morning, Sarah woke up with a start, her heart pounding. She had experienced an unusually vivid and compelling dream. In the dream, she wasn't given an address or a phone number. She was simply shown a scene. Olivia sitting alone, weeping, holding a faded photograph of a woman, and a voice speaking a single name clearly into the darkness. Eleanor. Sarah immediately knew this was divine instruction. The message wasn't just a name. It was the name, the key to Olivia's buried pain. Sarah went straight to the church and found Olivia setting up chairs for a weekday service, looking particularly despondent. Sarah walked up to her, her hands gentle but firm on Olivia's shoulders. "Olivia," Sarah began, her voice soft but filled with certainty. "I need to talk to you about something important. I believe God gave me a dream about you last night." Olivia looked up, her eyes dull with skepticism. "A dream, Sarah? I appreciate it, but I'm really not in the mood for—" Sarah interrupted her with quiet force, using the name. "It was about your mother, Eleanor." Olivia's face instantly went pale. The name, spoken unexpectedly after so many years of silence, hit her like a physical shock. Her breath hitched. No one at the church knew her mother's name, or the true depth of her family history. How do you know that name?" she stammered. "God told me," Sarah replied simply. "He showed me your pain, Olivia. He showed me the fight, the running away, and the shame that has kept you trapped. Your mother, Eleanor, is waiting, and you are ready to ask for forgiveness." Tears flooded Olivia's eyes. The wall of depression she had built crumbled instantly. "I want to go home, Sarah, more than anything. I've searched, but I can't even remember the full name of the road. It's been 15 years. I left as a child. I don't know where to start." Sarah took Olivia's hands, her eyes shining with faith. "You don't need the address, Olivia. God knows the way. Pack a bag. We are leaving now. We are going to drive until God tells me to turn." Later that afternoon, Sarah, dressed in her usual modest clothing and delicate lace veil, and Olivia, bewildered but filled with a fragile hope, set out in Sarah's old car, driving west from Nashville towards the unknown. As they drove onto the interstate, Olivia realized the true, terrifying risk. They were relying entirely on the missionary's dream and divine guidance to find a place she hadn't seen since she was 18. The journey to the house was starting, but where exactly were they going? The journey began not with GPS coordinates, but with an absolute dependency on faith. As they drove hours westward, passing through the rolling hills of Tennessee and into Arkansas, the car ride became a moving counseling session. Olivia, overwhelmed by the reality of the trip, finally poured out the deep, hidden source of her depression, the paralyzing guilt over the last words she'd exchanged with Eleanor. "The last thing I screamed at her," Olivia confessed, her voice shaking, "was that I wished she wasn't my mother. I was so young, Sarah, and so cruel, and she never got to hear me take it back. I deserve the years of isolation." Sarah, the missionary, listened patiently, but her counsel was firm. "You don't deserve isolation, Olivia. You deserve forgiveness, and so does Eleanor. That dream wasn't just for you. It was for a mother who also carries pain. God is healing the mother's heart while he's guiding the daughter's feet." The drive was punctuated by strange, undeniable moments of guidance. At one point, after driving for almost 6 hours, Sarah pulled over suddenly at a small, dusty gas station in the middle of nowhere. "We need to wait here," she announced. Olivia was baffled. "Wait? For what? Where are we even going?" Sarah simply pointed to a billboard across the road advertising a regional church retreat. "The name of that town on the billboard is what God wants me to see. It's a signpost." They got back in the car, and Sarah took the next small county road, a turn Olivia instinctively felt was right, but couldn't explain why. They spent the night in a humble motel, the air filled with the quiet hope that had replaced Olivia's pervasive despair. The next morning, the real transformation began. Olivia started to share her fragmented memories. "I remember a large oak tree in the front yard, and the mailbox was always leaning slightly. It was somewhere where the roads started to turn into dirt." As they continued driving, following Sarah's internal guidance and random, small signs, like the color of a roadside flower or a specific type of regional fence, Olivia's blocked memories started to resurface. She remembered the scent of her mother's baking and the sound of the porch swing. These weren't painful memories. They were memories of love that the anger had buried. She realized that Eleanor's strictness came from a place of deep, protective love, not malice. "My mother lost her own father young," Olivia reflected, tears welling up. "She was terrified of me getting hurt. I never saw that. I only saw the control." The guilt began to shift into empathy, preparing her heart for true reconciliation. They drove deeper into a rural, less populated area, far from the busy interstates. The roads indeed became narrower and less paved. Olivia suddenly pointed to a specific type of rusty, decorative gate on a long driveway. "Sarah, stop. That gate? I remember that gate. It was always broken on one side. It's from my childhood." The search, based entirely on a dream and faith, was finally narrowing to a specific location. Sarah pulled the car over, her eyes focused ahead. "The guidance is strong now, Olivia. The journey of faith has ended. The journey of forgiveness is about to begin." They drove down the long, winding dirt road. Olivia was hyperventilating, her hope now terrifyingly real. As they rounded the final bend, she saw it, a small, weathered farmhouse. The windows were the same, the chipped paint was the same, and there, in the front yard, stood a massive, towering old oak tree. It was unmistakable, but the great revelation came not just from the location, but from the sight of the mailbox. It wasn't just leaning slightly, as she remembered. It was leaning severely, almost falling over, and etched into the wood of the mailbox post, carved crudely and deeply, was the single word, Olivia. Her mother had carved her name there, a silent, desperate beacon for a daughter who ran away 15 years ago. As Sarah stopped the car, the front door of the farmhouse opened slowly. Standing in the doorway, older, frailer, but with the same familiar posture, was Eleanor, Olivia's mother. The two women, separated by a continent and a decade and a half of pain, stared at each other across the dusty driveway, the silence heavier than the grief. The silence was deafening, but it was Sarah, the missionary, who broke it with a gentle final push. She simply opened the car door and put her hand on Olivia's back. "Go," she whispered. Olivia stumbled out of the car, her legs weak. Eleanor stood rooted in the doorway, her eyes wide, tears already streaming down her face. The truth was instantly revealed in their faces. The separation had wounded them both equally. Olivia saw the years of loneliness etched onto her mother's face, and Eleanor saw the devastation her daughter had endured. Olivia ran, closing the distance between them, falling into her mother's arms in a chaotic, desperate embrace. The long-held bitterness and the cold silence melted away instantly. Mama, I'm so sorry. I should have never said those things. I was so wrong. Olivia wailed, tears soaking her mother's dress. Oh, my baby girl, my Olivia, Eleanor cried, pulling her closer. I looked for you everywhere. I drove those roads for years. It was my fault. I was too harsh. Please forgive me for loving you too tightly. The intense emotional release was the climax of the story. The argument that had separated them was finally resolved not by a letter or a phone call, but by the physical, undeniable presence brought by a miracle. Sarah, standing back at the car, watched the powerful display of healing, confirming the integrity of the dream she had received. After hours of talking and unpacking 15 years of hurt, the bond was fully restored. Eleanor explained the meaning of the carved name on the mailbox. I carved it right after you left, Olivia. I knew if you ever came back, you might not remember the name of the road, but you would see your name. It was my way of keeping the light on for you. Olivia's depression lifted completely, replaced by an overwhelming sense of belonging and peace. Her journey from the crowded loneliness of Nashville to the quiet love of her childhood home was complete. The recognition of God's role was absolute. Eleanor, who hadn't been to church in years due to her own hidden pain, immediately recognized the divine guidance. You, Sarah, are an angel sent by God. You dreamed the name. Only God knew how to get my girl home. The story ends with a message of complete reconciliation and new beginnings. Eleanor realized she couldn't stand to be separated from her daughter anymore. She sold the farmhouse and moved to a small, charming house just outside Nashville, settling close to Olivia. She immediately began attending Sarah's church, becoming a dedicated member and sharing her powerful testimony about the missionary's dream. Olivia and her mother, Eleanor, became inseparable, a beautiful picture of brokenness restored by faith. Their life, once marred by silence, was now filled with laughter, forgiveness, and the joy of shared ministry. The separation had been long, but the miracle of reunion proved that no distance is too far for a God who holds the address of your heart. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next powerful story of faith and healing.